you everybody for joining me of the second episode of the Phoenix Effect. This is all about what top producers and real estate leaders would do to rebuild their business if it all burned to the ground. All right, so today we have the amazing Nikki Bronstorp and Sandra Sanchez. We are going to get started with a little bit about you too. So Sandra, let's start with you. Give us a little background. Tell us how long you've been a real estate agent and what got your start in real estate? How'd you get started?
Yeah, so going on about 3 years now, and the way that I got started, I give a lot of this to my kids. My kids encourage me so much. I was a single mom working full time as a paralegal. Jeez, my brain's freezing up. My son, saw that I was working extra hours driving for Uber and also working full time. And he was really young at the time. And he's like, what are you doing wasting your time selling, driving people around in Uber? You're not making that much money. Why don't you just go sell houses? And I had thought about it before getting my real estate license. Just at first, it was just for some side money, kind of like a side hustle. And I said, I gave it some thought, and I actually enrolled in real estate school. And, I did real estate, and I was a paralegal full time for a while. And during the pandemic, it was pretty easy because, I was working from home. I was able to make some phone calls in between instead of lunch hour, making phone calls, those kinds of things. And then it just got to be to where I was busy enough that I could quit the day job.
That's fantastic. That's your start. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Sandra. What about you, Nikki? How did you get your start in real estate, and tell us a little bit about yourself?
So I've been in sales for about the same time as Sandra, and then my background is commercial construction, basically management and engineering. And so I was doing that before this. And so that's why I do commercial and residential. That's the only reason that I do both, is because that's my background in it. I definitely wouldn't do both if it wasn't, because it's pretty stressful to be able to do both. So I'm a single mom of 3 kids, and then have the team now and work for Coldwell Banker. We both do. And yeah, so busy.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us. Let's dive into what everybody wants to hear. All right. Sorry, guys, your business is burnt to the ground. You've lost everything. I'm so sorry. The only thing you get to keep is your experience and your knowledge that you've collected over the last few years. All right. So we want to know, what are you going to do starting from day one? All right. You woke up. What is the very first thing that you are going to do to start your business and get going? Nikki, let's have you take the lead on this one first.
Okay. So I have the luxury of knowledge of how valuable it is now to get a business coach, because I have worked with Erica. And so knowing what I know now, I would hire a business coach, and I would hire Erica. So the first year or so, I was just, on my own. I started for a small kind of boutique brokerage, and then I saw Erica's ad, and my first thought was, it's going to be too expensive. That's for people that are way higher up, fancy people. It's not for me. It's not for people like me. It's way out of my reach. I won't even, I won't even pursue it. And then I just thought, well, I'll just find out. I'll just reach out and I'll just find out, but I won't do it, And then I asked, and I found out, and I thought, okay, this is within my reach. And it made my time frame so go down from, years. I literally saved years working with a business coach. So doing that, especially in your first few years, will save you years of time. And even if you've been in the business for 5 years or something, and you just don't have your stuff together, it will save you years. So I would do that immediately. And then I would also go to a brokerage where they offer you tons of education and support. Because if you just go somewhere where you don't have that, you just don't know what the heck you're doing.
Thank you. And thank you for saying that. I've loved working with you, and it's been amazing watching your journey. I just remember you showing up the first day with your paper planner, like, this is how I'm doing things.
Yeah.
So it's been awesome. And now you are out starting your own team. You're inspiring others. I mean, the whole time you've been inspiring people, right? Like, you are literally writing your story, and it's just the coolest thing to watch. So yeah, thank you for being a role model and an inspiration to the industry. So Sandra, now day one, what are you going to do?
Well, I wish that we would have knowledge when we started something from scratch. So that would be super cool. But I would definitely, a few things. I would find a mentor, whether it's through a team, whether it's through, just an individual you found in school that you really like, that has drive, and find someone that you can learn from. Being on a team is, I think, really important for new brokers, even if it's temporary. I just think it's really important to be around that collaboration and finding a mentor within that team who's willing to teach you. And not everyone's willing to teach, keep continuing to search for that person who's willing to give you some knowledge to help you grow. And then also hiring a business coach. Like, hiring a business coach, it took me a while to pull the trigger. And I have to say, I was kind of encouraged when I saw that Nikki had hired a coach, and one of our mutual friends talked about you. And I'm like, maybe I should look into it. And then we went and had coffee, and I'm like, oh, wow, like, this sounds interesting. And I too thought, well, I don't want to invest and is it really worth it for me to do this? And it is worth it. And I'm so grateful that I did that, because I also feel like I saved a lot of years just getting organized and getting a good, idea of where to even start to get business. You have no idea. I had no idea when I first started. I just started with social media. And sure, it's a great way to get clients, but it's not the only way. There's so many other ways.
Yeah, right. And you have to find what's best for you. And that can be what's so overwhelming. I see a lot of in the Facebook groups, like, what's the best lead source? And I think that can almost lead to more overwhelm and more confusion than just, like you said, find somebody and they're going to help you with it, and just trust the process. Do you see that a lot, where people I see people just not trusting the process? It almost seems too easy sometimes. It's the hard things, but it's almost too easy, right? Put your head down, do what you're supposed to do, which is what we don't want to do, right? Do what you're supposed to do and keep showing up each and every single day. But I see there's like a lot of disbelief in that actually working. Do you guys see that as well?
For sure.
Yeah. And we go through things all the time we know exactly what to do, both of us, but we get burnt out. Everyone does. And you don't always want to do exactly what you know to do, but having people hold you accountable is really important in this industry. And whether it's from each other, from your team, from a coach, from if you work in a brokerage like Coldwell Banker, we have lots of people hold us accountable. So you can get really lost if you don't have people hold you accountable.
For sure. Procrastination kicks in, and then you get in the rut, and then it's hard to get out of that. It's a domino effect.
Yeah.
And so having an accountability partner is definitely key.
And then all of a sudden you've been in your yoga pants for like 4 days at home.
That was me last week.
It's so easy to fly under the radar, right? In this business, that nobody's going to check on you. And that's why, again, the beauty of the team, like, hey, we had a team meeting. Where are you at? Right? It's important to have those eyes on you, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
Save me. Yeah.
So let's say, all right, you found the right team, you hired a business coach, you're ready to rock and roll. What are the next things that you're going to do? Like, let's say, what are you going to schedule into your calendar and what actions are you going to take? Sandra, we'll start with you.
Schedule updating my CRM, something I learned from you, something that none of us want to do, and constantly like sifting through it to refresh your memory on clients that, you know, kind of fell through the cracks, entering new information, just keeping it organized, setting up drip campaigns, scheduling that, putting that in your calendar, and all the things you don't want to do, adding it to the calendar. Yep.
I love it. Cool. All right. What about you, Nikki? What's your advice? What are we scheduling?
So first, I mean, like, if your schedule doesn't look like a game of Tetris, I think you have a problem. Like, I think that attacking your schedule and making sure it looks like that is really important. You know, the gym should be on there. Every single appointment, picking up your children from school, doctor's appointments, every single item should be on your schedule. And that used to be really hard for me because it's hard to put every single thing on there and then really stick with those things. But if it's not on there, it doesn't exist, right? And so that's the first thing you have to do, is make sure that that is down. And then figure out 3 things that you are really good at and you really enjoy, and stick with those things. Or else, you know, like me, you know, that I like to do everything and I want to be good at everything, but then you're bad at everything.
Yeah, it just takes time, right? We have to layer it on slowly. I love that. If your calendar doesn't look like Tetris, that's awesome. It is crucial too, because anytime you see white space, you're like, ooh, I can do what I want. I'm going to get on Facebook, right? Like it's tricky. It is a tricky thing. It's almost psychological more than anything else, right? We have to see, oh, I've intentional with this time. I actually have a plan for this time. I love that. So let's say now, okay, we're curious, how has this, or not necessarily how it was different, because you've explained what you would do and how that was different than kind of your start initially. What would things that you did do, but you would definitely not do going forward? So for example, there's people that would invest in ads right away, right? They bought a bunch of ads and they thought that that would help them create their success. What are some of those mistakes that you did that you thought would create success and it turned out to be a dead end? So what can you help other people avoid? And Nikki, we'll start with you this time.
Okay. I've never been someone who's purchased really anything yet. Although I am looking into some different things moving forward, not purchasing ads, but some different things, but I've never purchased really anything. I'm in a spot where I'm finally saying no to things, which, you know, is one of my problems, is that I say yes to everything because I like saying yes to things and I like making people happy, but I have to have better boundaries, you know, and find things that I'm really good at and say no to everything else. And so going back, I need to just pick the 3 things that I'm good at, say no to absolutely everything else. Even though as a realtor, you're like, well, of course it's business. I need business. So I'll say yes to everything, but it just makes you tired and exhausted and it's actually not good for you. So that's something that I definitely am working on. And then going back, one thing that I did well, and I think a lot of people don't do, is when you very first start, make sure you go to every single website that exists for real estate and even not real estate, and making sure that you exist on anything that exists on the internet. So that is how you are super findable, you know, realtor.com, home smart, whatever. and make sure that you have a page on everything. So I get so many calls just because I'm so findable, because I took the time to make a spreadsheet and make sure that I'm everywhere. And that costs me nothing, just time.
That's huge. And a key thing there is a spreadsheet, right? Put that all in a spreadsheet. That way you can keep it updated quarterly, right? Just update it with your past sales, your testimonials, and it would take, maybe an hour if you have a ton of different things that you're updating, 10 different websites. However, Nikki has time and time. Oh yeah, someone's calling from my help. Oh yeah, someone's like, what is this tutu? Like, more people need that.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Sandra, what about you? What would you definitely not do?
I would not be afraid to pick up the phone and call
Ooh,
people.
love it.
That was the scariest thing for me. Just getting confident, to make calls. And one, I didn't know who to call. So it would not I would ask the right questions to find the right answers, to find the right network. And I would not be afraid to network. That was a little bit intimidating for me at first because I didn't know anyone, and everyone's feeling the same way in the room. And so I would change my outlook on that, and I would not be afraid to be different. I would not compare myself to others, because my journey is going to be completely different from Nikki's journey or someone else in the office. And I think, that's a big thing, is comparison is the thief of joy. And I get caught up in it. We're all human. I think everyone does. We're all afraid to talk about it, where, we need to take a step back, even on social media. We see, oh, this person has this many listings, and I wonder how I can get those listings. And comparing your journey, I would not do that anymore. And just focus on my journey, because my journey is going to be different from everyone else's.
I love that. Yeah, it goes back to that. All you have to do is just get a little bit better than you were yesterday. Right? Continue to do that. And your competition probably isn't doing that, right? Your competition is really focused on the external. Whereas if you can focus internally, you're definitely going to rise above most people, right? So hopping back in here. So we know what you would do. We know what would you not do. All right. The last thing that our audience wants to know is, what if you're struggling, if you're overwhelmed, as soon as they finish listening here, what is the first step that you recommend them taking? What action should they go take in order to get back on the right path and changing their trajectory and creating that success, especially given this market, right? There's so much. I mean, we're getting a lot of attention in mainstream media right now. There's so many real estate agents that are dropping off left and right each and every single day, right? Every single time I go into a Facebook group, I see, I'm giving up. I just can't do this anymore. Mm-hmm. So when somebody is thinking that, Sandra, what is your advice to them? What should they go and do right now?
Number one, I just think, it all comes down to believing in yourself, whether or not you're capable. I think a lot of us get in our heads that, maybe I'm not capable. Maybe, I've had a hard week. Maybe this isn't for me, but really pushing through that negative talk in your head. And a lot of people, can power through, but there's a lot of people that can't. And I think that's why a lot of people quit any industry, not just real estate, and not be in your head, because there's so many ways to get out of a funk. Like for me, I have a scheduled day off. It doesn't always happen, but I try to have a scheduled day off. And, I have, my amazing business partner and life partner, where we can kind of take days off, and he takes a day, I take a day, which is really, really helpful. And I'm glad that we have that structure. Not everyone does. So when you're feeling burnt out, it's because you're not balancing properly, and you're not scheduling your self-care. And for me, it's the gym and yoga. Yoga really calms my mind, and journaling in the morning, and affirmations, and really taking that time for me gives me energy to pour out to others, because we cannot pour from an empty cup.
Yeah. So get back to the basics, right? Go fill your cup before you try to to fix your business, right? We got to fix ourselves first, and that'll trickle into the business. Beautiful. Thank you, Sandra. All right, Nikki, what advice would you give to this person?
I would say ask for help. Everyone is so afraid to ask for help.
Yeah.
And you would be amazed at how other people really do want to help you and that they actually need help too, but everyone's so afraid to say it. So like, for instance, if I'm kind of in a spot where I would love to, collaborate with other people too, but I'm too afraid to say it. And you guys are all feeling the exact same way, but none of us say it out loud, but we're all thinking it. So if we all get into a prospecting group together and 3 days a week, we all sit down either virtually on Zoom or together, and we all make calls together 3 days a week. I mean, how amazing is that? But one person just has to have the guts to say, hey, I'm kind of struggling. How about we all do it together? Prospecting groups are amazing and they're so helpful to everyone. And you guys, somebody just has to speak up and say, hey, I need help. Can we all get together and help each other?
I love that, right? Let's just be more honest, right? Let's normalize needing help and needing a team. I think it's quite it's quite interesting that that's the common theme, yet every single successful person that I see, they have a quote about going places, big places, with a team, with people, with support network, right? Cannot make it to the top, cannot even make it out of a darn ditch. If the ditch is high enough, you can't even reach out, right? So sometimes we just need those people.
And you don't even have to formally be a team. I mean, I've done prospecting groups with people that I don't even work with. They're from like EXP and all over the place, I don't even care who they are.
Which is probably more beneficial, right? Because you see what other groups of people are doing, right? What are they doing over here? And you also realize, oh, I'm saying the exact same thing that person on that team's saying in that state. So I imagine that it's pretty similar to what everybody else is saying. So you can get some insight too, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, ladies. Well, this was fantastic. I know our audience has definitely received some value that they can go and apply today.